This is the fifth video in this series on making a 3D block racer game in Godot using C#. Hopefully you've made a set of levels by now, and you could have either used just regular Godot or you could have used Blender. I used Blender to prepare my levels and imported the shapes as I showed in the last video. I also made a fancy little goal thing here and gave it some different textures to make it look like a checkered flag, like a goal. So if you're interested in knowing how to do that, I would look into Blender's UV unwrapping and texture painting, that sort of things, and making different materials. And if you're interested and can't find how I did it or can't figure it out on your own, just let me know in the comments below and I can put together a video on how to do that. So just to give kind of a flyby of my levels. So here's world 1 or level 1. It's pretty easy. You just go left, right, jump over this little obstacle, go left, and then through the goal. Level 2 gets quite a bit more difficult. It's got a lot of left and right kind of zigzagging. Then there's this little skinny platform you have to jump on and go through the level then. Level 3 ramps it up where you have to jump and land on this platform, then jump over to the side over this kind of taller thing. And then there's a series of ramps that you have to jump on and slide through and dodge that last thing. Then level 4 I actually sort of started breaking up the ground itself and forcing the player to jump over gaps. And then level 5 really okay, there we go. Level 5, it really ramps it up in the difficulty, and you have to make some pretty severe drastic jumps, and it plays around with elevation in addition to moving around and making sure that you're really precise on where you land. So that'll be my 5 levels for this. I might go back and add more later. And you can do as many levels as you want, do 10, do 30, whatever you want to do. It's a good idea to sort of, progress through difficulty and give the player new, interesting challenges to keep them engaged and to keep them playing. So, hopefully you've also play tested all your levels, and you probably noticed that you have to, go into each level and hit, individually run current scene. And also, if you fell off or if you hit something and you were like, oh, I'm not going the right, or I'm not doing this right anymore, you have to restart. You have to completely close it and restart it, or just hit the restart button in Godot. So let's just give, for now, an easy way to quit. And as a reminder, we've got our, I called this a lambda transition. I think it's actually an epsilon transition. It's been a while since I looked at state machines, but we can have a quit button or key pressed. Let's make it possible for the player to just hit escape at any time and quit the game. So let's go to, I don't think we have just a standard process. So let's go public override void process. And all we're going to do is if input dot is physical key pressed, and we can do escape. Let's see. Oh, I think it's key dot escape. There we go. Now, this whole lesson is going to be sort of an introduction to Godot's scene tree. So what we do is we just say get tree dot fit, and that's it. So let's go see what that's like. So I'm just going to run my level 1. And if I hit escape, it just quits. And pretty easy. So now the player can quit the game at any time if they're boss is coming and looking over their shoulder or something, they can quit the game pretty quickly. So that's easy enough. And that actually takes care of one of our things on our to-do list, is just knocking that out. Now we're also going to have some quit buttons in the UI later, but for now we'll just leave it there. All right, so the other thing we want to do is automatically transition between levels. And how do we do that? Well, I want to show something really quick. If we run this project, and look up here on Godot's window, all of a sudden this remote thing popped up, and we see that there's a remote and we see playground because I hit run the game, and playground is still set as our default scene. So if we quit the game now, you'll see that that disappears. So I just hit escape like we just programmed, and that disappears. So even if I'm in playground, if I hit run current scene, you'll see remote pops up and we can see root. And that root, that's actually the root of the tree that Godot loads when the game starts. So we don't see the root when the game, or when we're not running the game. We only see it when the game is actually running. Now, in order to have transitions between levels, we need something that exists regardless of what scene is loaded. And the way Godot gives us that is it provides what's called autoloads. And if you're familiar with singletons or the singleton pattern, this is Godot's version of the singleton pattern, although it doesn't enforce that only one of these exists. However, since it's created as an auto load and it's loaded by Godot itself, in your code, you don't have to instantiate this anywhere else. So in our project settings, you'll see that there's this auto load tab, and we haven't created anything that we want to auto load yet. So let's do that now. So we're going to say new script. And this is, we can just call this level manager. And we can just create this. See. Let's open it up. Okay. So what this is going to have, we're going to say, we're going to give this a series or a string array, or an array of strings to hold where the different levels are stored. And we're going to have a current level counter, and we're going to have a max level. So let's do export. Let's say int max level. Export. We don't, yeah, we can do export int current level. And then we're going to do string level paths. Now, what we're going to do is the way I've set up my game. I have level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we can very easily in ready say, let's see, max level. I'm going to say that's equal to 5. And I'm going to do a for loop over the different levels and create the paths to those levels. So for int I equals 0, I less than max level, I plus plus. And I'm actually going to do it as I equals 1 and less than or equal to max level. So I'm going to say string, actually no, I'm going to do, yeah, all right, so I'm going to say level paths equals new string max level. Yeah, that's good. I less 0. Okay, so we're just going to have to pay attention to our off by 1 error because our levels start at 1 and go to 5, but our counter is going to start at 0 and go to 4 or 5, I guess, before it terminates. So we're going to say, let's say, level paths I equals. Now, in order to load something, you can see in our file manager here, it's res://. So we're going to say res:// levels/level underscore, and then plus, say I plus 1 plus dot tscn. Okay, so let's just make sure that this is going to work. So we have 5 levels. Max level is equal to 5. So we're going to have this for loop where I goes from 0 to max level. So for 0, it's going to say level paths I. That's the first entry equals levels/level I plus 1 tscn. Now we've built an array that will hold the paths to each of our levels. Now what we need is some function to change levels. So let's do this. So we're going to do public void change to next level. Okay, so what we can do is we say get free load the and current level, we're going to say that equals 1. Scene, change scene to file, and then we're going to do level paths current level. And then we're going to do current level plus plus. Except that what we're going to do is make a credits scene. So if we are greater than the max level, so as long as we are less than or equal to max level, if current level less than or equal to max level, then we're going to do this stuff. Current level plus plus. Or wait, yeah. And let's see, I think we want to do, okay, change to next level. So we're going to increment our level counter. Let's double check our design document here. So when we reach this, we increase our world counter, or we're calling it level counter, and then we load the next level. So as per our design, if world counter is less than max level, then we load the next level, and we go back. Otherwise, if it's equal to it, then we go to the credits scene. Okay, so we increment this no matter what, per our design. And if it's less than max level, so I think it's less than or equal to, so if we were on current level 5 and we have 5 levels, then yeah, we would want to do that. And do else if current level, yeah, greater than max level, we're going to load credits. Okay. Now, so what we can do now is jump back over to our player script, and we had put in remove this later once implemented on goal area entered. What we need to do is keep track of this level manager. Before we go do that though, let's just see what happens when we do this, okay? So we're going to use this autoloader thing I talked about earlier, and we're going to say we're going to load the level manager. And note that it's just a script. Don't forget to hit add. If you don't hit add, it won't go anywhere. It won't work. Okay. I'm pretty sure this will work even with that error. So let's go to, we're on level 1. Let's go load. Okay, now remember I was pointing out there's this remote thing. If we go over here, you can see we have a node level manager. And it says it doesn't extend from node. It looks like it does. So we've got this level manager thing, like that's a child of the root node. So in our code, what we need is we need to reference that from the tree. And so in Godot, you can just reference the tree to get the node that you want, the auto-loaded node. So we've got our exported variables up here. What we're going to do is say level manager. And then in ready, oh, and if you've been following along, I made a change offline here really quick. I noticed that I was starting at position 0, and that's because I was doing a new vector 3. So instead, for this getting the ready position, I just set it to the current position in ready. So I'm just going to say initialize player position up. Now I'm going to say load the what did I say? Level manager. So level level manager equals, and we're going to say get node and level manager to cast it to level manager. Now we're going to do /root to get the root of our tree, then level manager. Now we have access to that auto-loaded node as level manager. So all we need to do down here, instead of saying UN, we can say level manager dot what did we say? Get next. Change to next level. So now, theoretically, if we've done everything correctly, if we play our game, it should transition seamlessly between levels. And that's true even if we just say run the current scene. So let's give this a shot and just make sure it's working. So here's our first scene. I'll maximize this just to make it easy to see. All right. Now, we see that it transitions immediately to the next scene. Whoops. And we can change that by just using a timer. See that it works. So, yep, works. Cool. So this is world 3. And we don't need to run through all of them, but it's working. And that would be a death. So let's just make a default credits scene. So a credits scene or a UI, user interface, that's a control node in Godot. So we're going to call this credits. And this is just going to be a placeholder. We can just say, well, we want this to hold a background. Let's see. Let's take a look at what's in control. So we can say a color rectangle. We'll just call this background. We're going to change the color later. And that. And let's just add a label. So a label is just text. Label. We'll say congrats And we'll just make it the whole width of the window. And we'll do more with this later. We'll say U1. We'll do horizontal. We'll do center. Center. Blade text. Label setting. Settings. We just need. It's just white on black, so we just need to make that black. U1. All right, we'll do more with this later. But for now, let's just save it as our credits scene. We'll just save it in our main path. Okay, U1. That's it. Now let's go back to our level manager. Else if current level is greater than max level, we'll just do get tree dot change scene to file, and we'll do res credits tscn. Now, again, theoretically, we should, once we beat level 5, transition to the credits scene. So let's just see if I can actually beat my own level and see if that works. So this is the most difficult level I've made so far. Whoop, yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna. Oh, and you know what? This isn't actually going to work because we're not setting the counter correctly. So we could screw around with the logic and have current level set when we load the level, but I'm just going to hope that it actually works. So what this would do right now, if I beat level 5, it would transition to level 2 because it thinks that the current level is level 1. I'm just going to trust that that is going to work, and I'll test it offline and just go through my whole game and make sure it works. I would encourage you to do the same. But so now we've got that, and why don't we make a start screen since we've already kind of gotten into UI stuff. We'll just say start. Save this in res. Do kind of the same thing. We'll do color rectangle. This is going to be obnoxious white. Child. Do label again, and we'll say block tracer. Do this. Back. So it's visible. We'll do more with this later. This center. Now we're just going to add a start button. So start button. Well, a little bit bigger. So we're just say start. Now, what we need to do is go back into our level manager, and we need a public void. This is going to be another signal that Godot uses, and on start button pressed. And what this does, we're just going to say get tree that change scene file. We can just do level paths 1, and that should be the same as current level. We just do current level. Okay, so let's walk through what we're doing here. So here we've got this start button, and when it is pressed, it's going to emit a signal pressed. Oh yeah, and we need to build our code. So we connect this signal to, let's see. Oh, it's not in here. We'll have to do. Oh, so yeah, we're gonna need to add a script here really quick. So this will just be start scene.cs. Let's create this. And actually, yeah, we're gonna do the same thing that we did in player. That's what it is. We move this. Yeah, okay. Let's do a public void start game. Okay, yeah, this will be good. So what we're going to do is we're going to say current level equals 1, and we'll do this, and it'll start the game. Now, from within start, we need a signal public void on start button pressed. And we will need to get our level manager. Level manager equals get tree, or whoops, get node level manager root level manager. And then on start button pressed, we can say level manager dot start game. Okay. Now, let's just make sure we understand what's going on. What did we just do? So we made it so that in our start script, we're going to have a method that receives a signal when a button is pressed, when this start button is pressed. So we have to build to tell Godot that we have our code. We're going to go to our start button. On pressed, we're going to say pick on start button pressed. Connect. So when the start button is pressed, it's going to go to that method, and all that does is say level manager start game. Level manager start game just sets current level equal to 1, which we had already done an initialization, but that's okay. And then get tree change scene to file level paths current level. Now let's go back here, and we're going to make this our main scene. So we're going to go project settings, go back to general, main. So run. Our main scene is currently set to playground. We're going to instead change it to start. Loads, save. Now, if we run our game, it should just start at block racer start. And what happens when we hit start? It loads our first level. And we can play. Cool. Okay, so that's all good. So now we've knocked out this. We've got our world counter initialized to 0. We initialize the game, and we display the start screen. So on the play button pressed, we load our first game, or our first level. And we have getting to the goal, changing, and going back here. Now, so we haven't handled player death yet. So let's go ahead and do that now, because this will be pretty quick. So let's go back to our player. Recall earlier on, we talked about this isOnFloor method. Well, since we have an isOnFloor, let's see do we have if is on wall? Oh, and we do. So is on floor is using sort of like what is down to this shape. And if you are colliding with something below, then it says you're on the floor. Is on wall works similarly, it's just on the sides. So we're just going to say die. So we need a way to handle is the player dead. So what we can do is up here create a boolean bool player is live equals true. Now we only want to be able to control the player if the player is alive. So if player is alive, then we'll do all this stuff. I'm going to leave the setting the velocity and move and slide because if we're falling, I still want the player to fall. And also, if we've collided with something, I want the player to sort of like slide down the wall. So, so now if player is alive, now if you are on the wall, you say player is alive equals false. So now if we collide with something, we should just stop being able to move. Let's test that out. So if we collide, now if I try and move my character around, I can't. That's exactly what we want. The other thing we can do, though, is we can fall off the edge. So what we can do is say, let's just say if you've fallen and your Y position is less than -2, and we'll say that you're dead. So if position dot Y less than -2, player is alive equals false. And of course we could put that all in one line if you wanted to, but I like separating it out just for aesthetics. Okay, so again, let's run the game. Or is, yeah, I think my game's not running. Okay, and then if I go over here, yep, now I can't move anymore because I fell off. Now, later, we'll give some indication of, hey, you died, and we'll give the ability to reset. Why don't we do the reset right now? So, we'll say, why don't we say, if not player is alive, if input dot is action just pressed jump. I think it's case sensitive. Then we're going to say get tree dot reload current scene. Okay, so what this does, what reload current scene does, is it just tells Godot reload the currently active scene. So it's just literally going to restart everything, except it won't touch our autoloaders. So we'll go start, and if I hit the wall, oh no, I can't move, but if I press jump, we restart. Cool. And if I fall off the edge, I can't move anymore, but if I press jump, we're able to play again. All right, cool. Yeah, and if I'm moving and I collide, I'm still moving. I'm not able to move myself. I'm just going in the same direction I was going. So this is what that move and slide does. It makes you slide around. So, and then we'll see the level transition. Oh, wait. It looks like I went to the wrong level. That's something I'll have to handle. Okay, but things are mostly working. Okay, so the only thing we haven't done yet that I think would be good to do is this death counter. And we've already seen the concept of the autoloader. So why don't we create a new script? Okay, so we're going to go into our project settings, auto load, and see if we can create a new script right from here. So we can say death counter, and I'm going to say death counter.cs, create, load it, load it. Okay, so int death counter equals 0. So we're going to say we're going to say public void increment. We're just going to do death counter plus plus, that's all. And public int get death count. That's just going to do return death counter. Okay, so we made this an auto load so that we can keep it between scenes, so that when we get to the credits scene, we can show that. Why don't we just do that really quick? We will say add child node. We're going to do another label. This is going to be death count. And we'll put it here, stretch it across. We'll say death count equals, or we can just do, yeah, death count equals whatever. We'll do center things. Code. I don't think I saved the other one. On black. Okay. Save that. Now we need a script. So let's attach a script. Credits.cs sounds good. All right, and all we need to do death counter. Same thing with our level manager. We can say death counter equals, not new. We want to get it get node death counter root death counter. Make sure you spell that right. Then let's see, process, we can say, so what we need to do, we have a label node labeled death count. So what we can do is say label death count label equals get node label depth count. So this is, we're declaring this label variable, and we're setting it equal to that, the label. Now we can just say depth count label.text equals depth counter equals, and then plus depth counter no dot get depth count. Cool. Okay, so now once we get to our credits scene, we will see how many times the player died. So that's this show death counter, show credits. So we've done that. Awesome. So that's a lot that we've gotten done today. Next time, we're going to give our game some polish. We're going to take care of making those user interfaces look a lot better, making our text look a lot better. We're going to also add some juice to our game. So if you look up game development juice, we'll do that. Now, what I'm going to encourage you to do on your own before we get there, or before next time, use the concepts that we've learned today to add a score counter that increases each time the player passes an obstacle on a level. Then, once that level is complete, update the total score with the level score so that you can display the total score on this credits scene. Another thing you can do is get some background music and use the stuff that we've learned today to play the background music and have it uninterrupted as you transition from level to level to level. So we didn't talk about music or sound at all yet, but see if you can find a node in Godot that has something to do with sound or music, and use what we've learned today to make sure that it doesn't reset as you transition levels. So that's all for me today. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.